It started with the smell. Faint at first, just a whiff of something rotting, something foul. I assumed it was the trash, maybe something I'd forgotten in the fridge. But I cleaned the entire apartment, and the smell persisted. It wasn't constant. Sometimes it would vanish for hours, only to return stronger than before, like it was drifting in from somewhere else. By the second week, the smell was unbearable. It was so strong it made my eyes water, and no amount of cleaning or airing out the apartment seemed to help. The worst part was, I couldn't find the source. It wasn't coming from the kitchen, the bathroom, or anywhere else that made sense. It seemed to just linger. One night, after another round of frantic cleaning, I heard a noise, a low, guttural growl, like the sound of an animal, except it wasn't quite right. It seemed to be coming from the walls. My heart raced as I pressed my ear to the cold plaster, straining to hear. There it was again, a deep rumble, almost like a stomach growling, but louder, more intense. I pulled back, chills running down my spine. There was no way an animal could be inside the walls. It didn't make sense. But the growling continued, growing louder, more insistent, as if whatever was inside was hungry and growing impatient. I called the landlord the next day, explaining the smell, the noises, the impossible feeling of something lurking just out of sight. He came by, gave the place a quick inspection, and told me it was probably just a dead animal in the walls. Happens sometimes in these old buildings, he said casually, like it was no big deal. He promised to send someone to check it out, but days passed, and no one came. The growling got worse, more frequent, and the smell was overpowering. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it, felt it, whatever it was, just beyond the walls, hungry and waiting. Then, one night, it stopped. The silence was worse. The absence of sound, of that terrible growling, made the apartment feel hollow, empty, but in a way that was more terrifying than the noise itself. I didn't sleep that night, too afraid to close my eyes, too afraid to move, as if something was watching, waiting for me to let my guard down. Around 3 a.m., I heard it. Not a growl, but a whisper. Soft, barely there, but unmistakable. It was coming from the vent above my bed, drifting down like a cold breeze. I lay frozen, listening, as the whisper grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't in a language I understood, but the tone was clear. It was beckoning, calling to me. I don't know why I did it. Curiosity, fear, something else. But I climbed onto the bed and peered into the vent. It was too dark to see anything, but the smell hit me full force, a wave of rot and decay that made me gag. The whispering was louder now, clearer, as if whatever was in there was right on the other side, just inches away. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight, and pointed it into the vent. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the narrow metal shaft. And then, I saw it. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, just shadows playing tricks on my mind, but as I stared, the shape in the vent moved. It was a face, pale, gaunt, with eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. Its mouth was open, whispering in that strange, hungry language, lips peeling back to reveal rows of sharp, yellowed teeth. I stumbled back, dropping my phone. The face vanished into the shadows, but the whispering continued, growing louder, more frantic. I backed away from the vent, heart pounding, every instinct, screaming at me to run, but before I could move, I heard it again, the growling. This time it wasn't just in the walls. It was all around me, echoing through the apartment, louder and more intense than ever. The whole building seemed to vibrate with the sound, as if it was alive, hungry, and coming for me. I ran, bolting out of the apartment and down the stairs, not stopping until I was outside, gasping for air. The growling faded, but the memory of that face, that hungry, twisted face in the vent, stayed with me. I never went back to that apartment. I moved in with a friend, left everything behind, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear the growling. It's faint, distant, but unmistakable, and I know deep down that it's still hungry.